Part 4 focuses on the emotional aftermath of the confrontation and the family's struggle to process the revelation of the spouse's infidelity. This section explores how the narrator and Liam navigate the turbulence of betrayal, disappointment, and uncertainty, emphasizing the long-lasting impact of such a discovery on trust, family dynamics, and personal identity. Unlike the immediate shock of Part 2 or the intense confrontation of Part 3, Part 4 is more introspective, highlighting the slow and painful process of coping, reflection, and adjustment. The section begins with the narrator attempting to regain a sense of stability in the household. Sleep is disrupted, thoughts are persistent and intrusive, and daily routines feel heavy and hollow. Even simple activities, such as preparing meals or going to work, are tinged with emotional weight. The narrative delves into the psychological effects of betrayal, showing how infidelity can alter one's perception of reality. The narrator may question past decisions, second-guess interactions, or feel a sense of inadequacy, wondering why they were blind to the spouse's actions. This exploration emphasizes the depth of emotional turmoil experienced by someone who has been deceived by a loved one. Liam's role continues to be central in this part. He is depicted as both affected by the household tension and as a source of unexpected strength. The narrative may show him observing his parent with concern, offering small gestures of support, or sharing his thoughts and fears. Liam's involvement highlights the theme that children, even when confronted with adult problems, can demonstrate empathy and insight beyond their years. It also underscores the challenges of protecting children from the consequences of adult mistakes while acknowledging their awareness of the truth. The narrator begins to explore coping strategies, whether through personal reflection, confiding in a trusted friend, or seeking professional counseling. These moments emphasize the importance of processing emotions in healthy ways, rather than letting anger or despair dominate. The story portrays the tension between wanting to confront the spouse repeatedly and the need to create space for calm and rational decision-making. Small victories, like moments of clarity, controlled emotional responses, or honest conversations with Liam, mark incremental progress in coping with the upheaval. Part 4 also explores the ripple effects of infidelity on the family's day-to-day life. Trust, once fractured, influences communication, routines, and emotional connections. The narrator may struggle with feelings of isolation, questioning how to rebuild intimacy or whether reconciliation is possible. The spouse's remorse or lack thereof further complicates the emotional landscape, shaping the narrator's perception of the relationship's future. Part 4 emphasizes that coping is not linear. Setbacks, anger, and doubt are natural and expected. Ultimately, Part 4 serves as a bridge between immediate confrontation and decision-making. It examines the internal and external consequences of betrayal, focusing on emotional processing, reflection, and resilience. The narrator begins to weigh the practical and emotional considerations of the family's next steps, balancing personal feelings with responsibilities toward Liam. By the end of this part, the stage is set for Part 5, where the narrator must make crucial decisions about confronting the spouse fully, protecting the family, and navigating the difficult moral terrain of forgiveness, accountability, and the future of the relationship. Part 5 is the turning point, where the narrator must confront the reality of the situation and make critical decisions about the family's future. After the initial shock, the confrontation, and the period of emotional processing, the narrator is faced with weighing the consequences of possible actions, whether to forgive the spouse, attempt reconciliation, or consider separation. This part explores moral complexity, emotional struggle, and the tangible impact of infidelity on relationships and family dynamics. The section begins with the narrator reflecting deeply on the implications of the spouse's betrayal. They assess not only their own emotions, anger, hurt, disappointment, but also the long-term impact on Liam and the household. The narrator may consider questions like, can trust be rebuilt? What would life look like if they continue in the marriage? How can Liam be shielded from ongoing emotional damage? These reflections demonstrate the weight of responsibility on the narrator, showing that decisions are not made in isolation, but affect the entire family. One of the central tensions in Part 5 is the parent's moral and emotional dilemma. Forgiving the spouse could mean preserving the family unit and maintaining stability for Liam, but it also requires confronting the risk of repeated betrayal and emotional compromise. On the other hand, separating or ending the marriage offers autonomy and self-respect, but it may expose Liam to trauma and disrupt the sense of security he has known. The narrative emphasizes that there is no easy answer, and the ambiguity of these choices mirrors real-life complexities when families face infidelity. Liam's perspective continues to influence the narrator's decisions. His presence, reactions, and feelings are taken into account, highlighting how children are affected by adult actions and decisions. Liam may express concern for both parents, show empathy, or articulate feelings of fear or confusion. These interactions add emotional depth to the narrative and underscore the theme that decisions about relationships ripple far beyond the adults directly involved. The narrator must consider not only their own emotional needs, but also the psychological well-being of their child. Part 5 also explores the consequences of confronting the spouse further. The narrator may have additional discussions, set clear boundaries, or establish conditions for rebuilding trust. These moments illustrate accountability and the necessity of honest communication when navigating betrayal. The spouse's responses, whether remorseful, defensive, or indifferent, play a significant role in shaping the narrator's choices. Each action and reaction carries consequences that affect the family's emotional climate, stability, and potential for healing. Ultimately, Part 5 is about choice and responsibility. The narrator comes to recognize that whatever decision is made, reconciliation, separation, or some compromise, it will have lasting consequences for all involved. The narrative emphasizes the interplay between emotion and reason, showing the complexity of human relationships and the courage required to face painful truths. By the end of this section, the family is positioned at a crossroads. The narrator has weighed options, anticipated outcomes, and prepared to take steps that will define the remainder of the story. This sets the stage for Part 6, where the narrative moves into resolution, reflection, and the long-term effects of the choices made. Part 6 serves as the story's conclusion, bringing emotional closure and exploring the long-term effects of the spouse's infidelity on the family. This section focuses on how the narrator, Liam, and the spouse navigate the consequences of their decisions, highlighting themes of healing, resilience, and personal growth. Unlike the previous parts, which emphasize shock, confrontation, and moral dilemmas, Part 6 emphasizes reflection, emotional processing, and the ways in which families can reconstruct their lives after betrayal. The section begins with the immediate aftermath of the decisions made in Part 5. Whether the narrator chooses reconciliation, separation, or a period of trial for the marriage, the family begins to adjust to a new reality. The narrative examines the emotional landscape during this adjustment: lingering sadness, tentative hope, unresolved anger, and cautious optimism. By portraying these conflicting emotions, the story reinforces the realism of the healing process, showing that recovery from betrayal is neither linear nor simple. Liam's role in Part 6 continues to be pivotal. He has already acted as a catalyst for truth and has witnessed the family's emotional upheaval. Now he becomes a symbol of resilience and the capacity to adapt. The story may show him forming new routines, expressing his thoughts and feelings more openly, or even offering small gestures of reconciliation between the parents. Through Liam, the narrative emphasizes the importance of communication, honesty, and emotional support in rebuilding family bonds. His presence underscores the importance of communication, honesty, and emotional support in rebuilding family bonds. The narrator's reflection is central in this part. They contemplate the lessons learned from betrayal, including the significance of trust, the value of honest communication, and the fragility of human relationships. There was a sense of self-discovery. The narrator recognizes their own emotional resilience, boundaries, and priorities. They may journal, engage in introspection, or have candid conversations with friends or counselors. These reflective moments allow the reader to understand how the narrator's character has evolved, illustrating the transformative potential of even painful experiences. Part 6 also examines the relationship with the spouse, highlighting either the reconstruction or permanent alteration of trust. If reconciliation is pursued, the story emphasizes gradual rebuilding, open dialogue, agreed upon boundaries, and genuine. Part 1 sets the stage for the unfolding drama by establishing a sense of unease in the household. The narrator, presumably a parent, senses that something is off long before Liam enters the room. Subtle signs, a quiet house, the spouse's unusual behavior, small inconsistencies in their routine hint that there are hidden tensions within the family. This part focuses on building suspense and preparing the reader for the shocking revelation that comes later. It begins on an ordinary night, perhaps after dinner, when the narrator is going about their usual routine, reading, preparing for bed, or reflecting on the day. Despite the apparent normalcy, the narrator notices minor details that seem unusual. The spouse is distracted, checking their phone more frequently than usual, or stepping out for seemingly trivial errands. These small observations plant the seed of doubt in the narrator's mind without yet providing any concrete proof of wrongdoing. The narrative captures the parent's internal unease, blending intuition and subtle environmental cues to create a foreboding atmosphere. Liam's entrance into the room occurs late at night, breaking the quiet tension. The timing is unusual enough to immediately alarm the narrator. Children typically do not wake their parents in the middle of the night without urgent reason. Liam's behavior is both hesitant and deliberate. He seems burdened by something he has discovered or witnessed. His entrance is not casual, and the narrator senses the weight of the moment even before hearing any words. The author emphasizes the contrast between the calm night and the emotional storm about to unfold, using pacing, descriptive language, and the parents' inner dialogue to heighten suspense. Through Liam's quiet but intense presence, Part 1 introduces a critical dynamic. The child is not just a passive observer, but an active participant in the family's unfolding drama. His actions set the stage for the narrative's central conflict, the revelation of the spouse's infidelity. The parents' confusion, worry, and protective instincts are foregrounded, highlighting the delicate balance between parental authority and vulnerability. The story emphasizes emotional realism, showing the parents' struggle to interpret what Liam's visit might mean while maintaining composure. Part 1 also subtly introduces themes that will resonate throughout the story: trust, secrecy, and the fragile nature of family relationships. By focusing on the ordinary details of family life and the extraordinary impact of a child's unexpected action, the narrative establishes tension and empathy. The reader begins to sense that the night will mark a turning point, and Liam's entrance is the catalyst for the revelation that will upend the family's life. In essence, Part 1 is about anticipation and emotional setup. It carefully constructs suspense, introduces the main character's psychological states, and positions Liam as a pivotal figure. The stage is set for the shocking discovery that follows, and the reader is primed for the emotional intensity and moral complexity that will define the rest of the story. Part 2 is the pivotal moment where the narrative's tension escalates dramatically. This section centers on Liam revealing a secret he has stumbled upon, the shocking discovery of the spouse's infidelity. The impact of this revelation is profound, not only because it exposes betrayal, but also because it comes from the son, shifting the family dynamics in a surprising and emotionally complex way. The parent, who has sensed unease in Part 1, is now confronted with undeniable proof, and the story moves from subtle tension to raw emotional upheaval. The sequence begins with Liam hesitating at the doorway or at the bedside, his body language tense and nervous. The author emphasizes his internal struggle, portraying him as torn between fear, loyalty, and the desire to tell the truth. Liam might have witnessed something himself, a secret meeting, text messages, or an unusual interaction between the parent and the spouse, or he may have discovered physical evidence like emails or receipts. Whatever the method, the key point is that Liam's revelation is undeniable, and undeniable in its emotional impact. The narrator's initial reaction is a mix of disbelief, shock, and a desperate attempt to understand. The narrative captures the parents' racing thoughts. How long has this been going on? Why did they miss the signs? Could they have prevented it? These internal questions underscore the deep sense of betrayal that accompanies discovering infidelity, particularly when delivered by one's child. The shock is intensified by the unexpected source. The son becomes an unwitting messenger of pain, highlighting the story's theme that truth often arrives from the least expected places. Part 2 also explores the dynamics of family secrecy and unspoken suspicions. Flashbacks may be interwoven, showing subtle clues the parent had previously ignored, late nights, unusual phone calls, or distant behavior from the spouse. These moments, once insignificant, now gain new meaning in light of Liam's revelation, reinforcing the narrative's theme of hindsight and the painful clarity that truth brings. The reader is drawn into the narrator's emotional turmoil, feeling the mixture of anger, hurt, and confusion that makes Part 2 so compelling. Emotionally, this part establishes Liam's role as more than a passive observer. He becomes a catalyst for change. His courage and honesty force the parent to confront a reality they had been avoiding or unaware of. The narrative highlights the tension between the parent's protective instincts toward their child and the shock of betrayal by the spouse. Dialogue is likely used sparingly but powerfully, capturing the weight of words and unspoken emotions. Ultimately, Part 2 is about revelation and the shattering of illusions. It transitions the story from subtle suspense to active conflict, setting the stage for confrontation and emotional turmoil in Part 3. The reader experiences the raw, destabilizing impact of infidelity on a family, especially when innocence, represented by Liam, intersects with adult betrayal. Themes of trust, moral responsibility, and the fragility of relationships are brought to the forefront, preparing the narrative for the difficult decisions and consequences that follow in subsequent parts. Part 3 is where the emotional intensity of the story peaks, as the narrator must confront the spouse about the infidelity revealed by Liam. This section shifts from the shock and disbelief of Part 2 into active conflict, exploring raw emotions, moral dilemmas, and the impact of betrayal on the family unit. It is a critical turning point as the narrator moves from internal turmoil to outward action, testing the bonds of trust, loyalty, and family dynamics. The section begins with the narrator trying to process the revelation privately. Initially, they may feel a whirlwind of emotions: anger, heartbreak, humiliation, and even guilt for not having seen the signs earlier. The narrative delves deeply into these emotions, emphasizing how betrayal destabilizes one's sense of reality and security. Thoughts race. How long has this been happening? Was the marriage ever real? Could the relationship survive this breach of trust? These questions underscore the narrator's internal conflict, providing readers with a visceral sense of the emotional weight of infidelity. Liam's presence continues to influence the narrative. The parent must navigate the delicate balance of protecting him from further emotional harm while acknowledging his role in bringing the truth to light. The parent may experience conflicting feelings: pride in Liam's courage and frustration at having this painful truth revealed so suddenly. This dynamic enriches the story, demonstrating how children, even unintentionally, can become central figures in adult conflicts. The confrontation with the spouse is the core of Part 3. It begins tentatively, with the narrator posing careful, probing questions, seeking honesty and clarity. The dialogue is emotionally charged, with pauses, silences, and moments of tension conveying the gravity of the situation. The spouse may respond with denial, defensiveness, or reluctant admission, and the narrator's reactions, tears, anger, or quiet shock, reflect the spectrum of human responses to betrayal. This confrontation is not just about assigning blame, it's about understanding motives, assessing remorse, and beginning to determine the next steps for the family. Part 3 also explores the psychological impact of infidelity on the narrator. The narrative may depict sleepless nights, obsessive thoughts, and moments of emotional numbness. The parent reflects on the life they thought they had, realizing that the foundation of trust has been shaken. Flashbacks to moments that now seem like warnings or overlooked signs create a sense of painful clarity. The story examines how betrayal disrupts everyday life and forces individuals to confront uncomfortable truths about themselves, their spouse, and their marriage. Emotionally, Part 3 is about vulnerability and confrontation. The narrator's inner turmoil is mirrored in their interactions with the spouse, highlighting themes of honesty, accountability, and the fragility of human relationships. The section ends with the marriage at a crossroads. The spouse's confession leaves the family facing an uncertain future, and the narrator is left grappling with difficult decisions about forgiveness, boundaries, and the possibility of reconciliation. The stage is set for Part 4, which will explore coping with the emotional aftermath and navigating the fallout of the revelation.